Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, global markets reporter at Nasdaq. Joining me at the market site in Times Square, New York City, we have JJ Kinahan. He is the chief market strategist over at TD Ameritrade with January retail trading trends. Great to see you, as always, JJ. And the IMX increases to 5.68. That's the highest in 15 months.
Yes, our clients taking a little bit more exposure to the market. Perhaps people becoming a little bit more believers in the rally that no one respects.
For the past 18 months.
It really is amazing how overall all people want to talk about is the problems and not how things have been going. Net buyers of equities overall. Apple, Microsoft leading the way. Interesting on Apple. You and I have talked a lot. Last year they weren't such believers. I think the difference is the hope in tariffs. Last year, tariffs made them very nervous. So as Apple rallied, it still remains our number one held stock.
Yeah.
As Apple rallied, they were more sellers. This year, we're saying, I think people are like, okay, well, if the, tariff sort of threat is gone, perhaps Apple does have a lot more runway to the upside, and Microsoft obviously has been amazing overall. Boeing, which had a bit of a dip. People were buyers of the dip on Boeing. There's still a great believers in that long-term story of Boeing as a company.
Yeah, interesting. Microsoft and Apple both vying for the top spot in the Nasdaq 100 at 1.4 trillion. I think Microsoft's at 1.398. The exposure that they have to China, though, Apple's shut down a couple of stores.
Yeah, that's definitely a risk. But I do think that, if you listen to what Mr. Cook, their CEO, said on their earnings call, I thought it was so well said, really set, I think, a tone for the market. He's like, listen, we're making plans in case this coronavirus continues to spread. However, we don't have our arms around it. So let's not get crazy. And really, overall, I've been amazed at the patience the market has sort of shown with the coronavirus. As you and I know, the market's not known for patience. But overall, tip of the hat to the government's trying to keep it really segregated in areas, et cetera. And I think people see that most governments are doing what they can to get to what the root of this may be, and hopefully there's a good end to it, so to
it
speak.
seems to be somewhat constructive compared to when we had the SARS outbreak in 2003. Net sellers, Amazon, interesting, even though it hit a new all-time high today.
Yeah, and again, I think that people felt that their earnings would be good, and so started selling into earnings, and obviously after earnings as they rallied. And so I think part of that being, okay, they've had a nice run, and a little bit of, what does the retail sector kind of mean going into 2020? How will can a consumer stay as healthy as they were overall?
All right, now millennials, I always think this is the most interesting part of the IMX. Net buyers of Exxon, that kind of came out of left field.
That absolutely took me by surprise. So talking to some clients anecdotally, what it is they realize they should have some yield in their portfolios. Now Exxon's up to 5.5% yield, just a little over it actually with the price action this morning. And so with that, longer term believers that the price of crude oil will at least stabilize a little bit higher. May not go to 100, but they don't think it's going to stay in the low 50s. So the underlying commodity going higher. Exxon themselves being a pretty well-run company, they pay a nice yield. They're like, do I want to really tie up 10-year money for 1.6%? No, I'd rather take a chance that I can get some capital appreciation over the next couple of years on this company while at the same time getting a great yield.
So even more interesting, going from an oil company to a net buy, electronic vehicle maker Tesla was a sell. Very opposite for millennials.
Well, and you and I have talked, though, for the last 6 months last year, they were buyers of Tesla. They've been a believer in the story, and as the stock sort of went on this crazy run that it's been starting in January, our clients wanted to, I equate that to Apple. Our clients were buyers of Apple the year before, started to sell it when it went up. Same thing with Tesla. They've accumulated some. They're seeing the price action they wanted, and they're starting to sell some.
Yeah, I, for one, would not have been able to stomach last week's action in Tesla. That was so interesting.
And what I would like to mention on that is if you look at not that people have to trade options, but the options tools help people. Mm-hmm. Tesla's expecting a $67 move today as a one standard deviation move.
Instead of an earnings.
Crazy.
Right. All right. Well, we have you here. We have to get your investment outlook.
Sure.
All right.
I think, there's a lot of similarities. We talked about the coronavirus. There's a lot of similarities to me between the coronavirus and tariffs of last year. That is, it's going to be the overhang on the market. We're not sure when it's going to end, and there are a lot of uncertainties with that. That may weigh a little bit on the market in the shorter term. I think this earnings season, people are going to get a pass. We'll see if it continues to last in the next earnings season. As you said, you got companies like McDonald's that make McDonald's that make 10% of their revenue there, Starbucks, et cetera. A lot, particularly maybe in the food companies, but also technology companies, a lot being done there. So there is this overhang that hopefully gets solved by next earnings season, because if it doesn't, I think that's going to start pressuring us. If it does, I still think, as you and I talked at the beginning of the year, I thought that we would see some sort of sell-off in the first quarter, quarter and a half. I still think we'll see that, over a 5%, maybe even a 10% sell-off. But then I think we'll kind of slowly rally back. And as we get closer to the election, I would expect a lot of intraday volatility with the market going nowhere.
It certainly has been great for day and swing traders out there to see some of this volatility come back into the market. But you're absolutely right. There definitely is an appetite to buy. I mean, it's Monday morning, February 10th. The Nasdaq 100 up nearly 0.5% when all the futures were down this morning.
It was crazy. Even futures on Sunday night's opening, they were all up. Then they were all down, then they were all, it hasn't been a huge range, but it's been a nice range to your point if you're a day or a swing trader. And I think the biggest thing your viewers, being retail traders, can do, what's your time frame for your trade? You really have to know it when
that is the
swings like
most
this.
important question overall.
Absolutely.
Thank you, as always, for joining us at MarketSite.
What a pleasure, Jill.
And thank you for joining me on Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at